envisioned himself in realistic detail, finding something better, much better. He reflected on the mistake he had made in the past and used them to plan for his future. He knew that you could learn to deal with change. You could be more aware of the need to keep things simple, be flexible, and move quickly. You did not you did not need to overcomplicate matters or confuse yourself with fearful belief. You could notice when the little changes begin so that you would be better prepared for the big change that might be coming. He knew he needed to adopt faster, or for if you do not adopt in time, you might as well not adopt at all. He had to admit that the biggest inhibitor to change lies within yourself and that nothing gets better until you change. Perhaps most importantly, he realized that there is always new cheese out there, whether you recognize it at the time or not, but and that you are rewarded with it when you go past your fear and enjoy the adventure. He knew some fear should be respected as it can keep you out of real danger, but he realized most of his fear were irrational and had kept him from changing when he need to. He didn't like it at the time, but he knew that the change had turned out to be a blessing in disguise as it led him to find better cheese. He had even found a better part of himself as Haw recalled what he had learned. He thought about his friend Ham. He wondered if Ham had read any of the saying Haw had written on the wall at Cheese Station C and throughout the maze. Had Ham ever decided to let go and move on? Had he ever entered the maze and discovered what could make his life better, or was Ham still hammed in because he would not change? How thought about going back again to Cheese Station C to see if he could find Ham. Assuming that Haw could find his way back there, if he found Ham, he thought he might be able to show him how to get out of his predicament. But Haw realized that he had already tried to get his friend to change. Ham had to find his own way beyond his comfort and past his fear. No one else could do it for him or talk him into it. He somehow had to see the advantage of changing himself. Haw knew he had left a trail for Ham and that he could find his way. If he could just read the handwriting on the wall. He went over and wrote down a summary of what he had learned on the largest wall of cheese station, and he drew a large piece of cheese around all the inside he had become aware of, and he smiled as he looked at what he had learned. Change happens. They keep moving the cheese, anticipate change, get ready for the cheese to move, monitor changes, smell the cheese often so you know when it is getting old. Adapt to change quickly. The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you can enjoy new cheese. Change. Move with the cheese. Enjoy change. Second, the adventure and enjoy the taste of new cheese. Be ready to change quickly and enjoy it again and again. They keep moving the cheese. Hall realized how far he had come since he had been with Ham in Cheese Station C, but knew it would be easy for him to slip back if he got to. comfortable. So each day he inspected cheese station and to see what the condition of his cheese was. He was going to do whatever he could to avoid being surprised by unexpected change. While Hall still had a great supply of cheese, he often went out into the maze and explored new areas to stay in touch with what was happening around him. He knew it was safer to be aware of his real choices than to isolate himself in his comfort zone. Then Haw heard what he thought was the sound of movement out in the maze. As the noise grew louder, he realized that someone was coming. Could it be that Ham was arriving? Was he about to turn the corner? Ham said a little prayer and hope, as he had many times before, that maybe at last his friend was finally able to move with the cheese and enjoy it. As discussion later the same day, when the Michael finished telling the story, he looked around the room and saw his former classmate smiling at him. Several thanked him and said they got a good deal out of the story. Nathan asked the group, "What would you think of getting together later and maybe discussing it?" Most of them said they would like to talk about it, and so they arranged to meet later for a drink before dinner. That evening, as they gathered in a hotel lounge, they began to kid each other about finding their cheese and seeing themselves in the maze. Then Angela asked the group good naturedly, "So, who were you in the story, Sniff, Scary, Ham, or Haw?" Carlos answered, "Well, I was thinking about that this afternoon. I clearly remember a time before I had my sporting good business when I had a rough encounter with change. I didn't sniff out the situation and see the change early, and I certainly wasn't scary. I didn't go into action immediately. I was more like Ham who wanted to stay in familiar territory. The truth is, I didn't want to deal with the change. I didn't even want to see it. Michael, who felt like no time had passed since he and Carlos were close friends in school, asked, what are we talking about here, buddy?" Carlos said, "An unexpected change of job." Michael laughed. "You were fired." "Well, let's just say I didn't want to go out looking for new cheese. I thought I had a good reason why change shouldn't happen to me. So I was pretty upset at the time." Some of their former classmates who had been quiet in the beginning felt more comfortable now and spoke up, including Frank, who had gone into the military. "Ham reminds me of a friend of mine," Frank said. "His department was closing down, but he didn't want to see it. They kept relocating his pupil. We all tried to talk to him about the many other opportunities they existed in the company for those who wanted to be flexible, but he didn't think he had to change. He was the only one who was surprised when his department closed. Now he now he's having a hard time adjusting to the change he didn't think should happen." Jessica said, "I didn't think it should happen to me either, but my cheese has been moved more than once, especially in my personal life, but we can get it to that later." Many in the group laugh except Nathan. "Maybe that's the whole point," Nathan said. "Change happened to all of us." He added, "I wish my family had heard the cheese story before this. Unfortunately, we didn't want to see the changes coming in our business, and now it's too late. We are having to close many of our stores." That surprised many in the group because they thought Nathan was lucky to be a secure business he could depend on year after year. "What happened?" Jessica wanted to know. "Our chain of small stores suddenly became old fashioned when the mega store came to town with its huge inventory and low prices. We just couldn't compete with that. I can see now that instead of being like a sniff and a scurry, we were like Ham. We stayed where we were and didn't change. We tried to ignore what was happening, and now we are in trouble. We could have taken a couple of lessons from her because we certainly couldn't laugh at ourselves and change what we were doing. Laura, who had become a successful businesswoman, had been listening, but he had said very little until now. I thought about the story this afternoon too. She said, I wondered how I could be more like her and see what I'm doing wrong. Laugh at myself, change, and do better. She said, I am curious how many here are afraid of change. No one responds, so she suggested, how about a show of hands? Only one hand went up. Well, it looked like we got one honest person in our group, she said, and then continued, maybe you'll like this next question better. How many here think other people are afraid of change? Practically everyone raised their hand. That they all started laughing. What does that tell us? Daniel Nathan answered. Sure, Michael admitted. Sometimes we are not even aware that we are afraid. I know I wasn't. When I first heard the story, I loved the question, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Then Jessica added, well, what I got from the story is that change is happening everywhere and that I will do better when I can adjust to it quickly. I remember years ago when our company was selling our encyclopedia as a set of more than 20 books, one person tried to tell us that we should put our whole encyclopedia on a single computer disk and sell it for a fraction of the cost. It would be easier to update, would cost us so much less to manufacture, and so many more people could afford it, but we all resisted. Why did you resist? Nathan asked. Because we believed then that the backbone of our business were our large sales force who called on people door to door, keeping our sales force depended on the big commission they earned from the high price of our product. We had been doing this successful for a long time and thought it would be go on forever. Laura said maybe that's what it meant in the story about Ham and her arrogance of success. They didn't notice they needed to change what had once been working. Nathan said, so you thought your old cheese was your only cheese? Yes, and we wanted to hang on to it. When I think back on what happened to us, I see that it's not just that they move the cheese, but that the cheese has a life of its own and eventually runs out. Anyway, we didn't change, but a competitor did, and our sales fell badly. We've we've been going through a difficult time now. Another big technological change is happening in the industry, and no one at the company seems to want to deal with it. It doesn't look good. I think I could be out of a job soon. It's May's time, Carlos called out. Everyone laughed, and including Jessica. Carlos turned to Jessica and said, it's good that you can laugh at yourself, Frank offered. That's what got out of the story. I tend to take myself too seriously. I notice how Haw changed when he could finally laugh at himself and at what he was doing. No wonder he was called Haw. The group groaned at the obvious play on words. Angela asked, do you think that Ham ever changed and found new cheese? Elaine said, I think he did. I don't. Corey said, some people never change and they are prized for it. I see people like Ham in my medical practice. They feel entitled to their cheese. They feel like victims when it's taken from taken away and blame others. They get sicker than people who let go and move on. Then Nathan sat quietly as to he was talking to himself. I guess the question is, what do we need to let go of and what do we need to move on to? No one said anything for a while. I must admit, nothing said. Say what was happening with the stores like are in other parts of the country, but I hope it wouldn't affect us. I guess it's a lot better to initiate change while you can than it is to try to react and adjust to it. Maybe we should move our own cheese. What do you mean? Frank asked. Nathan answer, I can help but wonder where we would be today if we had sold the real estate under all our old store and built one great modern store to compete with the best of them. Laura said, maybe that's what Haw meant when he wrote on the wall, savor the adventure and savor the adventure and move with the cheese. Frank said, I think some things shouldn't change. For example, I want to hold on to my basic value, but I realize now that I would be better off if I had moved with the cheese a lot sooner in my life. Well, Michael, it was a nice little story. Richard, the class skeptic said, but how did you actually put it into use in your company? The group didn't know it yet, but Richard was experiencing some changes himself. Recently separated from his wife, he was now trying to balance his career with raising his teenager. Michael replied, I thought my job was just to manage the daily problems as they came up when what I should have been doing was looking ahead and paying attention to where we are going. And boy, did I manage those problems 24 hours a day. I wasn't a lot of fun to be around. I was in a rat race and I couldn't get out. Laura said, so you were managing when you needed to be leading. Exactly. Michael said, then, when I heard the story of who moved my cheese, I realized my job was to paint a picture of new cheese that we would all want to pursue so we could enjoy changing and succeeding, whether it was at work or in life. Nathan asks, what did you do at work? What did you do at work? Well, when I asked people in our company who they were in the story, I saw we had every one of the four characters in our organization. I came to see that the Sniff, Scurry, Hams, and Haw each needed to be treated differently. Our Sniff could sniff out changes in the marketplace, so they help us update our corporate vision. They were encouraged to identify how the changes could result new product and services our customers would want. The sniff loved it and told us they enjoy working in a place that recognizes change and adapt in time. Our scurry liked to get things done, so they were encouraged to take actions based on the new corporate vision. They just needed to be monitored so they didn't scurry off in the wrong direction. They were then rewarded for action that brought us new cheese. They like working in a company that value action and result. What about the ham and haw? Angela asks. Unfortunately, the ham were the anchor that slowed us down. Michael answered they were either too comfortable or too afraid to change. Some of our hams change only when they saw the sensible vision we painted that showed them how changing would work to their advantage. Our ham told us they wanted to work in a place that was safe, so the change needed to make sense to them and increase their sense of security when they realized the real danger of not changing. Some of them changed and did well. The vision helped us turn many of our hams into haws. What did you do with the hemp who didn't change? Frank wanted to know. We had to let them go, Michael said sadly. We wanted to keep all our employees, but we knew if our business didn't change quickly enough, we would all be in trouble. Then he said the good news is that while our hosts were initially hesitant, they were open minded enough to learn something new, act differently, and adapt in time to help us succeed. They came to expect change and actively look for it because they understood human nature. They help us paint a realistic vision of new cheese that made good sense to practically everyone.